Hey everybody, it's Joseph from My Gamers Reviews here with my Platina Ezel deck profile, the long-awaited deck profile. So, picture it. You're in a corner of darkness, and there's no way out, and a beacon of light comes to grant you victory. I ride my avatar, Platina Ezel. Alright, so our starting vanguard is Dreaming Sage Corrin. Okay, we're running 8 crit triggers, 4 draws, 4 heals. We're doing 4 8k vanillas. We're doing 4 perfect guards, 2 Slagle Dagger, 3 damage recyclers. I'll get into those in a little bit. Okay, we're running 4 10ks. We're running 3 damage on flippers, 3 12k interceptors, 2 Vivian. We're going to run 4 Ezel, 2 Platina, 2 12k grade 3s. Alright, so let's talk about the deck. Alright, so after I've gotten a deck test to this deck a bunch of times, when I first used it, I took out Bermuda Triangles. I went in a sort of a mirror match against another Platina Ezel player. I lost, and it was 2 very close games. I went up against a Grand Blue player and I lost. So I was so in my head I knew that I just didn't play this deck enough. Here's the thing, I ended up getting my cards basically the day before the tournament, which meant I only got at least 2 or 3 deck tests in, and I ended up adding in a card or 2 last minute, so I didn't have the best record this time, which is fine. I ended up going in late. Excuse me. I ended up going in late at my locals. I missed the first 2 rounds and went in during round 3, so I had to win every single game, or at least lose 1, in order to be in the top 3. So I took out Bermuda Triangles, which was pretty easy. But, you know, next week is going to be team tournaments, or actually this week is team tournaments. So I'll tell you how I do there. I'm going to be partnering up with the Platina Ezel and the Grand Blue player that I lost to. So we're going to have our own team. So now let me explain this deck. Alright. So I call these guys damage recyclers, the Disciple of Pains. Now the reason why I call them damage recyclers, a lot of people like to call them self-damagers, but I don't like seeing them as that. Okay, so the damage recycler in the deck, what she does is when she's called, you counterblast 1, and you put the top card on your deck into your damage zone. At the end of the turn, you heal the damage, put it back into your deck, and shuffle. Now, what this can do, why a lot of people think this card's really bad, they really don't see the potential that this card has, why it's so good. Now, this card can get you into your limit break, it can get you into your ultimate break. A lot of players like to make players that have ultimate breaks and not get to that 5 damage, keep them at that 4 damage. This card can make you get right to that 5 damage, then heal off. You can either heal off a heal trigger, any one of the 16 triggers, or perfect shield, or whatever you want to heal off. Say if you dropped Platina into your damage zone, I've had that happen, and now I only have 1 in my deck. I can just put them right back in the deck, shuffle it up, and then next turn use Corrin, look at the top 5, shuffle up the deck again if I don't get him, and then if I have a grade 3, twin drive. So you have 3 chances of getting Platina again your next turn. You're going to either draw into him, you're either going to have Corrin's skill pick him up, or you're going to end up drive checking into him. Those are your 3 chances of getting Platina. And I run 2. Now this deck obviously could use tons of work to make it into a perfect form, in my opinion. I would take out the 2 gigantic destroyers, put in a 3rd Platina, so I'd only have 7 grade 3s, and then add in 1 more Bumanes for 4 12k beaters. That would be the perfect form of the deck. But I actually kind of like running the gigantic destroyers. But see, the thing is, why you would want to take out the gigantic destroyers is to use Corrin's skill, because he can get grade 3 Ezel, any Ezel card. So it just shortens the grade 3 that he'd be getting, and it just heightens up for Ezels to get. Now, if you don't get Platina, it's fine if you don't get Platina. You have Blonde Ezel. Blonde Ezel, like I said in my last video, Blonde Ezel is just a great card. This card wins games. It really is a threat. Actually, sometimes it's really strong compared to Platina if you don't have the ultimate break. The only good thing about Platina is that he can become a 13 alone, so it's big for your opponent to try to get over, where Ezel stays at 10, so you're using up more shield. So when I was playing in the tournament, I was just going for Platina. Again, I told you guys, I only deck tested it 3 times. Honestly, I think I should have used a different deck going into the tournament, or just stayed with my Ezel deck and then waited to deck test as much as I did now in the following days, where I've played with this deck maybe about 15 times, because that's what I did. After I lost, when I came back, I took a rest, and then the next day I played and played and played, and then today I played and played and played to try out new strategies. See, having the 2 Platinas isn't bad at all, actually. See, the thing is with these types of decks, excuse me, you shouldn't be relying on Platina. Platina is your victory card. He's going to get you out of the tough situation. He's going to get you that game, that winning game. But Ezel can still do the same thing. Ezel is still a great grade 3 Vanguard. And when I was in my tournament, I was just thinking about Platina, Platina's Limit Break, Platina this. You need to save, Platina's Ultimate Break, I mean. You need to save the Ultimate Break. You need to know when to use it. Which, in other words, means you should deck test. You should try different scenarios. And not setting up different scenarios, but scenarios that you would be in with other decks. How you would play against them. When to use your Ultimate Break. When not to use your Ultimate Break. Like, why would I use my Ultimate Break when the player has 2 damage and 8 cards in their hand, or when they're at 3 damage and they have 8 cards in their hand, or 4 damage, where they have like 10 cards in their hand? There's no point. You want to keep on poking in there, and then they just keep on dropping cards until you see that they're not dropping a certain few in their hand, where you can try to figure out if they have a grade 3 in there. Next turn, if you can survive their turn and you know you can survive it, Ultimate Break and then go for game. See, that's what you want to do. You don't want to just use it just because you have it. Remember what I said back in my Mega Colony deck profile. You don't want to just use the Counterblast just because you can. You want to use it at the right time. You want to give these things time. You just don't want to keep on counterblasting away. I mean, we have trips, so we can technically go for 2 Ultimate Breaks. If you see that you can go for 2 Ultimate Breaks, definitely do it. If you know that you're going to have 2 free damage after you do the Ultimate Break, and Trip is one of your rear guards, and she's going to get a huge boost, and you know that they're not going to guard her because they want to guard Platina, or they want to guard the second rear guard, the one that's going to have a lot of power. You can potentially go for that push to unflip it. They might want to guard Trip, and then they have other cards that they have to worry about. Trip is a very scary card in this deck, which is why I run 3 of her. Just damage unflipping is just really good, especially with the Disciple of Pain combo, especially with Blonde Ezel combo. It's just a very good card to have. A damage unflipper in this deck is very good. Why is it good? Because you're flipping over 3 damage, and you can potentially get a second Ultimate Break your next turn, and that's very devastating for your opponent. Your opponent really doesn't see things like that coming. Sometimes they overthink. Sometimes they just can't. They just don't have enough cards in their hand, and they have to let you hit with that. They have to let you get that one hit in, and then the other ones they have to guard against. So it just puts a lot of pressure on the opponent. 2 Vivians. Why Vivian? Well, Vivian's just a great grade 2 Vanguard, in my opinion. Anything else, she's really not that great, because you're not really going to be using her in the Ultimate Break, her skill anyways, but she's an Ice Shield as well. So what I'm trying to say is, when you have her as a grade 2 Vanguard, you're going to have another grade 2 hopefully on the field too, in a rear guard spot. So you'll have 1 column open and then 1 behind that rear guard open. So she's going to get boosted. Either your opponent is going to guard her attack or let it go through. You counterblast 1, check the top card. You can either get a booster or you can get another grade 2 or higher unit, call it, and then that's a 3rd attack. Very scary in the beginning of the game, and it just causes your opponent either to drop their hand or to go and take that damage. So now they have about 3 or 2 damage at that point in the game. Possibly 4, depending if you get lucky or not with critical triggers, and etc., etc. The perfect guards, I don't think they need an explanation. Now, 2 Slagle Dagger instead of the 2 Tron. Now, a lot of people always wonder why I use Slagle Dagger instead of Tron. Tron is a great card. It really is. But when you're going up against a lot of decks, now a lot of people are going to be filling up their back row, and Tron's just not going to cut it. When Slagle Dagger can get Platina to 20 easily, and since you're going to be losing that power plus 1,000 for every single Gold Paladin on the field, I feel as if Slagle Dagger does his job a lot better than Tron. Slagle Dagger can also counterblast twice, if you were to go for a big push, if you use the ultimate break and then you counterblast twice for Slagle Dagger. So he gets a 4k boost, so he's an 11k booster, plus the 5,000, so he's 16. So Platina swings in for 29. So it causes your opponent either to drop the perfect guard or to drop a lot of 10k guards just on your Vanguard. And that's scary if you start pulling out critical triggers, heal triggers, draw triggers, etc., etc. Once you pull out a trigger, it gets very scary because your opponent's dumping their hand very fast. But that's normally for a push if you're going to be counterblasting twice with the ultimate break combo. That's for an end game push when you have nothing in your hand. Your opponent's hand isn't that big, and you know you have to win this turn, or you're going to lose the next turn. You go for that final push, and that's what it's there for. 3 Bagdemagus, because I already have 2 other 12Ks, so what's the point of having 4 in there at the moment? There's just no point. Maybe I'll do an updated deck profile where I have 3 Platina, and then no Gigantic, and then a 4th Bagdemagus, like I said. That would make it the perfect set on this deck. That would make it a true Platina Ezel build where it's just focused around him. But I'm fine with the Blonde Ezels right now and the Gigantics. They're both very too scary cards to grade 3s to see on the field, because that's a 10k that they have to get over rather than getting over a 9k, which is less guard that you have to put on the field depending on what they're hitting you with and what can take it and what can't. Now I'm running 4 Bumains because they're 10k vanillas. You really don't use Bumains that much, but he's a 10k vanilla, so he's just great to have as either a grade 2 Vanguard or a nice rear guard when you don't have a Bagdemagus. He's just very good. So keep your 10ks in there, a staple. And there's very few decks that don't use 10k staples. A specific one that you guys are going to be seeing from me not very soon, but in the near future, will be the Majesty Lord Blaster deck, which doesn't use any 10k vanillas at all, and you'll see why if you don't already know. Excuse me. So I'm keeping in these soul charging triggers because if he gets called out, soul charge, Ezel gets a 6k boost. Same thing for this unit right here. And I will do a video in the future showing you guys which ones are good, if Kron is the better starting Vanguard, if Kriff is the better starting Vanguard, or if Corrin is the better starting Vanguard for the Platina Ezel build. There's a lot of talk saying Kriff, because Kriff can get out the grade 3 Ezel very fast. If you have the cards in your hand, you're golden. A lot of people say Kron, because Kron can get out any grade 3. In a deck like this, Kron would be very good, even though he's a 4k booster. If you were to get a Gigantic Destroyer and you need a grade 3 for your Vanguard, it'll grab it instead of just grabbing an Ezel card. It just now works for every single one of these. But again, I'll go into that in a later video. So, I hope you guys enjoyed my Platina Ezel deck profile. There will be an update probably Sunday, and that's when I will do the comparison video on which starting Vanguard wins for Gold Paladin Platina Ezel build. So, this is Joseph from My Gamers Reviews, signing out.